Hey, everybody. How are you doing? Welcome to the Yarn Thing podcast with Marley Bird. I'm your host, Marley Bird. You can catch the Yarn Thing podcast live every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. That's 12 o'clock on the East Coast, 9 o'clock on the West Coast, and 11 o'clock in the Midwest. If you are anywhere else in the world and would like to join us live for the broadcast, please Google what time 10 o'clock Mountain Time is for you. I do live in Denver, Colorado, if that helps you out. You can come and join the fun. Better yet, now that we're on YouTube, it's really easy to just hit subscribe to the Marley Bird YouTube channel, click that little bell, and you will be notified whenever I go live here on YouTube or when I upload a video teaching you how to become a better knitter, crocheter, or crafter. So it makes it really easy for you to be able to join us over here, learn about some wonderful people in this great industry that I am a part of, and have a chance to win prizes, both live on air and after the show by leaving comments on the show notes over on the website. We are blessed to have some wonderful sponsors of this podcast, so we're going to say thank you to them. And they include Erin Lane Bags, Craftsy.com, Creative Bug, Buffalo Wool Company. I'm sorry, just my brain went blah. Stitches.events, where I will be attending Stitches West later on this month. So hopefully you'll get a chance to come and check out the booth that we have at Stitches West. And last but not least, Red Heart Yarns, where I'm the proud national spokesperson and the home of Chic Sheep by Marley Bird Yarn. So I want to say thanks to the sponsors. If you want to learn more about them, we've put a link in the video we've put a link in the show notes of this show. Also, if you go to marleybird.com and you click the drop down menu for podcasts, you'll see an option for the sponsors, and there's a link to all of them in there as well. So please go by and tell them thank you for sponsoring your favorite podcast. So hello, everybody. As you can tell, I'm still getting over this lovely flu that we've had. Now it's turned into a slight cough that happens every now and then when I talk. So hopefully I don't talk very much today. I'll let the guests do all of the talking. And today we have Chandi from Expression Fiber Arts joining us today to talk about hand dyeing yarn and about her ebook, which is all about how to sell your handmade items online, how to make extra jingle put some extra jingle in your pocket, right? That's what my mom used to say. She'd say, you have some jingle in your pocket and it's burning a hole. All you got to do is go spend it. Like, I know, Mom. My husband will tell you I'm very good at spending money. And my accountant will tell you that as well, apparently. Side note, we're obviously doing taxes. So I'm excited today to have Chandi on the podcast because I've never had a chance to really talk with her before. I want to learn more about her history, about what her business is doing. And it's always exciting to meet new people. So hopefully you guys will take a minute and welcome Chandi to the podcast. So hello there. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
I am thrilled you're able to join us today. And thank you. I'm going to tell you here, when I got sick, everybody, I had to postpone Chandi on the podcast. And so she has been very kind in letting us say, can't do it yet. We can't do it yet because I've been sick. So thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, I'm glad you're feeling better.
I am too. So without further ado, I want to learn more about you. I know that you have a wonderful sort of backstory of what you did before you came into the yarn industry. And then I'm really curious how you got into the yarn industry. So I'm just going to let you take it away.
Sure. Yeah, I've actually always loved yarn ever since I was a little girl. I was 9 years old and my mom taught me to crochet. And I remember it was so frustrating because my chains were so tight and I just decided that was not for me. And it was about 3 years later, we went to a garage sale just randomly. And I always look back and wonder if the lady there knew what an impact she was going to have on my life. She had crochet thread, pink and ecru and white, and the little tiny needles and pattern books for doilies. So I fell in love and I had to have it. So I went home and I just started reading the patterns and figuring out what a double crochet was, what a single crochet was, following the little instructions they put at the beginning of the book. And I just started whipping out doilies and bookmarks and coasters for every family member, for every friend. I don't know why doilies were the thing, but those were the thing. I just made tons of those. I had a huge stack. And so I just loved it. And I continued on through my teen years. I tried knitting, and the two needle thing at that point when I was 14 was not having that. It was not working for my brain. So I went through college, and I actually had another business. Back then I used to sell makeup and all natural skincare that I made. And so I loved that. And I was learning about business back then. And I discovered knitting around age 27. We were driving, I lived in Arkansas at the time, and we were driving by a yarn shop in Russellville, Arkansas, and she had the most beautiful shawls and sweaters hanging in the window. And I was just shocked because I didn't know there were, this kind of thing was in, or that there were stores, you know, that had this. So I went in and just went nuts, and I was a knitter from then on. And I began to knit like it was going out of style. I made sweaters and hats and everything you can imagine. And the funny story is I actually knitted so much that my hands would not do it anymore. Like I remember one day specifically, I knitted for 10 hours straight, and my hands were like icy hot with pain. I couldn't type for about 3 weeks, and I had to type for my business. So I had to stop knitting, and it was absolute torture because that was my joy. You know, that was the thing. And so during that time, I still had to work with yarn, and I decided to start dyeing it because it was instant gratification. It didn't hurt my wrists, and I was able to still be involved with it in some way. So that's how I got started dyeing, and I just started experimenting a ton. I tried Wilton cake dyes and Kool-Aid dyeing, and then I started the actual getting in wool dyes, doing it professionally, and learning that. So that was fun, and I still had my other business at the time, and I eventually was able to start knitting again as soon as my hands rested, and I realized I'm not 12 anymore. I can't go 10 hours straight without taking a break. So I ended up getting divorced a couple years later, and at that time I could no longer do the business, and I moved back to Alaska, where I was originally from, to go stay with my brother and start my life over. And I remember just being terrified because I didn't have my business anymore. I didn't have a career. I didn't know what I was going to do. One day I remember laying in bed, and I just felt like I was going to throw up. I was so scared of what the future held. I didn't know what to do, so I started reading books. I started, you know, I had to come up with a plan. And I got a job in the meantime, and there was a pivotal moment. I remember sitting in my brother's house. So in Fairbanks, Alaska, in the summertime, it's pretty much 24-hour daylight. So I remember the sun was like just streaming in my face, and I was sitting on the couch, and I asked myself, here I am, I have this, you know, life ahead of me. If money were no object, what would I want to do? What is it I want to do? And it was just clear as a bell, and it instantly popped into my head. There was no hesitation. I want to have a hand-dyed yarn business in a beautiful southern location, the sun shining, it's warm, and I just imagined this studio, and we were there, and it had big windows, and I was like, all right, let's make that happen. So I started ordering in a few little supplies here and there, and started experimenting with a bunch of different dyeing methods. I tried squirting it on with a syringe, and I was trying all different things to see what worked for me. And I remember the first few times I was kneeling outside. I don't know why I was doing it outside. It was summer, it was outside. My knees were pushing into the grass. I was hot. I was like, oh, this is not gonna work. How am I gonna do this? So it started out like that, but I just kept going. And I was also working my full-time job. So in the mornings, I would get up at 4:30. I would study my stock trading because I was trying to do that as well at the time. I've since been like, nah, that's too that's way too stressful. I would do that, and then I would package up, you know, an order or two if I got one, and then I would head to work, and then I would, on my lunch breaks and my breaks, I would be in there like editing photos and listing things. And I started actually just selling primarily on eBay. That was kind of the thing that gave me the push, and Etsy a little bit. And then I quickly got a website set up, and it was a long haul because I like to tell people that are starting, my first calendar year in business, I only had one $22 sale on my website, my actual site. So obviously not enough to really do anything. So I just kept going and kept going. And the month came where at my job, they offered me, I was at the time just a temporary position. They offered me a full-time benefited position. And it just so happened that month I had made more in my business than at my job. And I told them I would be quitting because I looked down and I saw two paths stretching out in front of me. One was to live a life, doing what I was doing at that job, which was fine, wonderful people, it was great. But it wasn't filling my soul up, for lack of better words. So I decided to make the leap, even though I couldn't quite survive yet on the business, and do that full time. And I did. And then from that point, I had been living in my brother's house in a little 10 by 10 room up to that point, and I needed more space. And rent in Fairbanks is through the roof. So
really, I wouldn't have known that.
It's very expensive. The cost of living is very high. So I managed to secure the downstairs of a rarely used church, and I lived in one of the Sunday school rooms, and I had the whole kitchen for dyeing and the whole downstairs space for drying. So that kind of started, I started to have more time and space, and very quickly I found a duplex and moved in there with my then boyfriend, now husband, Tim, and I just kept going with that, and it was pretty quickly after that I was not able to keep up with the dyeing myself. So several of my friends started dyeing in their homes, and we would have like weekly or bi-weekly drop-offs, or twice weekly drop-offs, where I would give them the yarn, they would take it home, they could be with their babies, and they wouldn't have to stay out of their home, especially in the winters. In Fairbanks, it can get 30, 40 below. So getting out frequently can be difficult. So that allowed them to dye the yarn in their homes. And then I started doing, mainly the marketing and more of that part of the social media. I started doing YouTube. I put up randomly, a how to knit video on YouTube, and that has brought a ton of people through the years over to our site. So yeah, so that's how I got started crocheting, started knitting, and then the day came when we were like, my husband actually quit his job and started working with me full time, and we decided to make the dream come true of leaving Alaska and heading south. So we looked at a couple different cities. We came down to Charlotte and visited. We looked at Atlanta. We looked at a couple other places close by, and we just decided, bloop, this will work. It's warm. Let's go. So we sold everything. We drove my Jeep down, and so yeah, here we are in Charlotte. And we eventually, it was a couple years that we were here, and then we decided to move it out of our home. So we've been working in our home up to that point, and about almost 2 years ago, we finally got our first commercial space, and we now have a team of, seven people plus 2 main designers that we work with. We have a tech editor for our patterns. So that brings us up till today.
That's so awesome. Such a great, inspiring story. In the chat room, people we're talking about how sometimes when life puts you in a place where you just feel like everything's so overwhelming and you're scared and you're not sure what the future brings, like how it's hard at the time, but the life lesson is so important for future. And so many of us have been there, and where we are now, we're better for where we have been. So your story is very inspiring in that way. And I love the idea of, if I could do anything, if I had all the money in the world, what would I do? And you're like, this is what it is. Because I often will say that to my friends and stuff. They're just like, you work so hard, you do this, this, and this. And I said, yeah, but if I won the lottery tomorrow, I still would be doing this. Like, I love it that much. So I totally understand where you're coming from with that. But wow, to move like completely cross country and just be like, all right, let's do this. Let's move forward. I mean, it's huge. And I mean, I know what it's like to quit your job and do this as a day job. And it's like, it's a huge step to be able to do that. And then I read your husband works with you as well. You do all this stuff together.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's an amazing story and so wonderful. So as you were on your knees in Fairbanks, dyeing this yarn, trying to be like, how can I do this? When was it that you finally felt like you got in a rhythm? You found a way that worked, and you're just like, all right, this is clicking now. This is what's happening.
Yeah, it was probably about a year and a half, maybe 2 years into it, where things had changed. In my previous business, the internet was a totally different place than it is now with social media, because I remember when I started this, it was around 2011. Instagram was just becoming a thing. It wasn't even really going yet. And so that was just coming on the scene. There were things like Facebook advertising. I had never done YouTube, so I started doing that. So everything was new. compared to my other business.
Right.
So it was like I was relearning all over again.
Totally understand.
And so, yeah, it probably was about 1.5 years, 2 years. And I started to realize, okay, that's working. Let's do more of that. Oh, this type of color is popular. Let me dye more of that. Yeah. And just, you start building slowly. And that's what I would tell anyone who's getting started. Like, you got to be in it for the long haul. You gotta have your vision. You got to be like, this is the way I want to live my life. When I'm, an old woman on my rocking chair looking back, you're never going to say, oh, thank goodness I didn't take that chance. No, you're going to be like, oh man, I tried this and that and that and that didn't work, but I'm so glad I tried it. And then I tried this and that worked. And you just got to go, 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 go. And the thing I see so often is people want to think about things and mull it over. And obviously you have to do that, but you got to start taking action. Mm-hmm. Take action, see what works. Take action, see what works. Take action, see what works, because that's what's going to drive you forward is that. And you have to take action even when you're scared out of your boots.
Absolutely.
Like, if your heart's racing and you're shaking in your boots, you got to do it. If you know you need to do that thing, and it never stops, because each new stage of business asks something new out of you, and you got to keep going with it. You never get to the point of like, yeah, I've arrived.
I know, that would be great, right?
Yeah,
I know.
That'd be wonderful.
When I decided to jump into the YouTube side of stuff, I took all the money I made in the year that I started working with Red Heart, and I put it into my studio to build the studio, to get all the equipment, so everything. And my husband, remember I told you I'm really good at spending money, right? So my husband, at one point he came down, there was a water leak over here, and he's just like in the room and he's freaking out. He's like, I just feel like we are pooping out money, but he didn't use the word poop. He's like, there's money everywhere, And I just looked at him and I said, for the first time in 10 years of my business, I'm actually taking money and putting it into it. And it's a huge step. It's so scary because I don't know if this is going anywhere. I have no idea. But in my heart of hearts, like, I'd prayed about it and stuff. And I'm like, I just know this is what I need to do. I kind of laughed and I said, I feel like if I build it, they'll come back. And he laughed at me. And I said, I feel like this is what I need to do. But it was a huge, not only like emotional step, because it just is. And then putting yourself out there on YouTube is huge, because all of a sudden you're this public figure, right? And then financially, it's just like, you just choke, But yeah, you're absolutely right, because you don't want to be that older person on a rocking chair, like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't take that chance. I'm thrilled I took that chance. I'm glad you did as well. Let's talk about your yarns a little bit. As you're choosing what yarns you want to dye and stuff. So I've talked to several different dyers. I don't dye yarn myself, but I'm always fascinated by how you decide what fibers you want to use, how, like you mentioned that there's different ways to dye yarn, Kool-Aid or Wilton. And like, I don't know. Like, how did you talk to me about your yarn? Like, what fibers do you use? How do you dye your yarn? Like,
sure.
I don't even know where to go from there. So you just take it.
Yeah, sure. There's a lot of different parts. So as far as the fiber blends, we have all of ours custom spun at different factories. So what we do, we start getting ideas. Actually, recently, yesterday, I believe, I asked on Facebook and Instagram, what do you want to see? What kind of fiber blends would you love to see? Do you want alpaca, wool, cotton, linen? Do you like lace weight, sport weight, DK weight? What would you love to see? What would be your ideal? So we usually start there and get an idea, what do people want to see? Because that's my job, is to give the customers what they want. It doesn't matter as much what I want, it's what they want.
Right.
So we go from there, we kind of start getting some ideas, and then the next step is we reach out to our suppliers, the mills, and we say, here's what we're wanting. And they spin up a sample, usually 2 or 3, 5 or 10 skeins. And they ship those to us. And we do some testing to make sure it dyes well, we like how it looks. And then from that point, if we like that, then we go into we get a full amount of it, which is usually around 3,000 skeins or so is the minimum. And it usually takes several months to get in. So that's kind of how we decide on different fiber blends. And I think through the years, I've started to learn our customer base, and most people like to make sweaters and shawls and accessories, and so I try to keep that in mind. What type of fibers are going to work well for those things, they're going to hold up well. One thing we really, really pride ourselves on is all of our yarn is very soft. I don't have time for scratchy yarn. I like really soft yarn that feels good as you're working with it and feels good when you're wearing it. So that's how we do that. As far as colors, so now we use only professional wool dyes. We don't do, Kool-Aid and all that. That's fun though to do with, like if someone wants to do that with their kids. But so we use wool dyes, and we have several different methods. So we do primarily pot dyeing. We have big pots full of water, and that allows us to dye up to 10, sometimes more skeins in a batch. So we do solids, which since they're hand dyed, we call them semi-solids because they're always a little bit more tonal than, a factory produced yarn. And we have a sprinkle method where we actually sprinkle the dye powders on the yarn and we steam it. We have a couple of methods that I invented in an effort to try to be efficient and produce a consistent product, because production yarn dyeing is a lot different than just splattering yarn on a skein for yourself. It's got to be, you have to have formulas. It has to be done consistently. And our dyers still, even though we've moved here, our dyers still work in their homes. Mm-hmm. So they're able to be with their kids and all that. So we have to ensure that when, one dyer dyes this color, 2 months later with the same formula, it's going to look the same, from this person here. So, so I invented a couple different methods where we rotate the skeins in the pot, and the colors can overlap, and we get really cool variegated colors via that method. So then once we kind of have our fiber blends, and we have our different methods, we currently have, because I'm obsessed with color and new stuff, we just tallied it up, and we have thousands of formulas. And each one has its own quirks and its unique things. So we rotate through those. Sometimes, I'll just be like, hey, let's get some more of that color on this base, that color. If we get a request, we'll dye up, fool's gold on, our resilient sock yarn or whatever it may be. And then we do featured colors throughout the month. So this year I'm really excited because we're doing a lot of the month things. So we have a moon inspired color of the month. We have a sock yarn of the month, an official color of the month. We do yarn clubs. So we prep usually about a month or two in advance and get those colors dyed up. We test them, we like them, we take pictures, I knit a swatch, whatever needs to be done. I've been trying to do more videos recently showing the skeins and the balls so people can really see what that color is going to look like. So yeah, I lost my train of thought. That's all right. That's kind of our process and how we do it. So some of it is planned, and some of it's just kind of random. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. There are people in the chat room. Julie Gervais, she says, every time I think, this yarn base quote of Chandi's is my favorite, I buy another one from her and I fall in love all over again. She hasn't bought anything from you that she does not like. So
hi, Julie.
She is a big fan, apparently, which is great. Yeah, so many people over here that are singing your praises, and they're so happy. Actually, they're so happy we're on together. It's kind of funny. Which makes me happy. Yeah. They're loving you. So here's my question. Mm-hmm. I am looking at your website, and I'm looking at the beautiful pictures and the yarn that's next to the picture. How much do you take inspiration from different pictures to choose what colors you want to put together?
Yes, that's a question we get asked a lot. So we do an inspiration picture with all of our yarn. That's just something I started way back in the day, and people love it and I like it. So we keep doing that. So a lot of people ask, which comes first, the inspiration picture or the yarn? And the answer is both. It works both ways. Sometimes the easiest way is to find a picture. And at this point, we know our dyes. We know, this dye is going to produce that color. This dye is going to produce that color. And usually on the first try, we get it. And boom, we got it. Sometimes we need 2 or 3 tries to get it right. So sometimes it works that way. Sometimes it's the opposite. I did a story recently. So I have this wheat color.
Yes.
I'll show you. Yes, this is on our
beautiful.
This is on our Twisted Tweed sport weight yarn. We dyed this up, and I was like, I don't know. I'm reading a book about Alaska, so I was in the mind of Gold Rush, Klondike. I was thinking all those terms. I was like, no, that's not what it wants to be. And so I let it sit for a couple weeks, and then one day it just hit me. It wants to be called wheat, so I called it wheat. And then I go find a wheat picture that matches. So it goes both ways. So that's really fun. And that part is, I'm the one that primarily does that part. I find the inspiration picture. My husband is the one, he takes the actual picture of the yarn. He's the videographer, photographer, organizer, king. He does all that kind of stuff. So we work together.
Nobody likes the bragger, Chandi. Nobody likes the bragger.
He's kind of perfect. But can't help it. So we work together to make that final picture, go up on the site. So
It's awesome.
yeah, it's
I
pretty
love it.
fun. Yeah. And I take inspiration from pretty much everything. I do a lot of inspiration from nature because it's just
It's beautiful.
perfect and calming and amazing. Yeah. I've been branching out a little bit more this year, trying to do more like, I've had some colors called museum and grandfather's library, getting into more architecture and that type of thing. So sometimes it's based on what book I'm reading, or, I'll just be walking down the street and see like a mud puddle and be like, oh, that is the most beautiful shade of brown. I need to have one called that. But then I always try to prettify it a little, like, oh,
mud puddle.
So, yeah, lovely mud puddle.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Ironically, I totally get that. Like, I'll walk around and I'll see different colors, like things you just don't. I mean, things that you wouldn't attribute to being beautiful, but you're like, gosh, that's a great color. I totally get. I mean,
everywhere.
Apparently, I love color, and it's funny to me because I'll look online on Instagram and Pinterest and stuff, and I love the whole idea of neutrals and grays and creams and browns. But then I go to the store and I don't buy any grays and creams, or like I have. That's it. And even on that, it's like has pink on top of it, right? Like I just don't buy it.
Yeah.
I love color. It's my happy place. I love it. Yeah, it's emotional.
Yeah,
it drives something.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It really does. I found that. Yeah, for sure.
It's pretty great. So we talked about the yarn, talked about the dyeing process, the different fibers and such. Can we talk a little bit more about the yarn club? What are these yarn? What's this yarn club?
Yeah. So our yarn clubs are what we do with that. They're not subscription based. So you just come back every month and buy it if you want to.
Okay.
We put them up on the first of the month, every month, and we don't show you what it's going to look like. So all you see is an inspiration photo.
Okay.
And so it gives you kind of an idea, it's going to be teals and greens or, etc. And we have a theme every month. This month it's compassion. And I really love quotes. So I usually do quotes with these things to tie in the theme. And sometimes we'll have 4 colors for the club, and you can choose one or you can choose them all. Sometimes we'll have 2 or 3. In the past, I've done 1. It just varies depending on my mood, basically. So yeah, you get the surprise skein of yarn. You do know the yarn base, but you don't know the color. So until it shows up, then what we've been doing this year is sending custom enamel pins. So I designed those several months in advance. And with the skein of yarn, you get an enamel pin, a knitting and a crocheting pattern suggestion, because I never want to leave my crocheters out because that's my first love.
Love you.
Yes, absolutely. And coupon codes, like a exclusive coupon code that nobody else gets that you can use for your next order. So we send those out, and that's all on a little printed postcard. Fantastic. That we send out with that. So yeah, and we've been experimenting also lately with a mid-month club where we do 3 skeins that coordinate. So you buy them as a kit, and then for 3 months in a row, all 9 of those skeins are going to coordinate. So you can get like the whole spring collection, the whole summer collection, etc.
Love it.
We've been trying that.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, that's my favorite part. I love coming up with those ideas and concepts and seeing, how people like them. I love that so much.
That's really great. All right. So that leads me to the designs and stuff. You led to, you offer knitting and crochet designs and stuff. How does it work for you? So when I jumped into this industry, I started off as a podcaster, and then I went to designing also. And so I'm always curious designing with yarn companies and designing on your own, designing all the different things when it comes to design. Yeah. How, as a yarn company, yarn dyer for yourself, how do you approach the design process? Do you design? Do you reach out to designers? Do you sell designs? Do you offer designs for free? Like tell us about all the different patterns that you have made up with your beautiful yarn.
Yeah, kind of all of that. So we started out and we started realizing that people wanted patterns to go with the yarn. So I began way back in the day just designing what I knew how to design. It was new for me. I had never designed before. I guess we all have, our first.
Start somewhere.
You have to start somewhere. So I was really familiar with crochet. Knitting is a little bit more difficult for my brain sometimes. So I have primarily stuck with patterns that are great for beginners and advanced beginners. Like I was saying, we get a lot of customers from our How to Knit video. So it's people who are wanting to, get their feet wet. They want to make their first hat or their first sweater, their first, scarf or whatever. So I started designing a lot of things that were, 2-row repeats or 4-row repeats, or things that were very simple and easy and meditative. That's the type of thing I like to make. And then I started to realize that I couldn't continue to do it all myself. So we started reaching out. We worked with some different designers, and now we primarily work with 2 designers, Emily Walton and Christina Smiley. They design 90% or more, 95% of our patterns. Sometimes I will still design one. The mood will strike. I'm like, yes, I have to do this right now. Drop everything. So it's like, where's the yarn? Let me get some. I'm knitting. So yeah, so I was going to show you a couple that we have.
Yes.
They are incredible. They design all the advanced stuff, the 14-page things with all the sizes, and I'm like, oh my god, they're so good. So we give those. What we do is, for the most part, we do free pattern Fridays. So we do all this, we do the photos, we do everything, and then you can get the pattern for free. Usually we release them on Fridays, and they're free for a few days or for a week sometimes, and then they go up to full price. So you have to go download it during that time. So I always tell people, we announce those in our email newsletters, and that's how, to get notified if you don't want to miss out on those. So just a couple that we've had recently that have been popular. I was going to show you, like, this is our compassion cowl. And this is really fun because, beautiful. Yeah, it's very simple, but you can learn how to do, no, I can't think of the word, corrugated ribbing.
Yeah, I wasn't sure where you were going, so I was like, I'm not sure.
Yes, corrugated ribbing. It's got a little bit of easy fair isle, and then just some basic striping. So it's beautiful. Simple. It's great for like an advanced beginner who wants to learn some different techniques. That one was really popular. And this one, I love this one so much. This is called my worth wrap, because I want people to remember when they're knitting this that they are worthy of a beautiful life. Like, never forget that. And like, I like to knit and crochet things with a mantra and like repeat things to myself. Like, I am enough. I am beautiful. I'm worthy, la, la, la. So this one is basically just linen stitch. And we rotate through a bunch of different colors. I know, it almost looks
soothing.
Woven.
Yeah, it's so pretty.
Yeah, I love it. So that one was really popular as well, and pretty simple. I like patterns that you can customize. If you want to use one color and keep it simple, you can. If you want to use 900 colors. And then a couple crochet patterns. These were designed by Christina Smiley. We have, this one's a nice big triangle shawl. And beautiful. This is using our alpaca silk DK, so it's got like a really nice drape. I love yarn that drapes.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of that type of thing. And then we try to do tutorials, like YouTube tutorials we're getting more and more and more into that for a lot of our patterns. So if there's a tricky part, we'll do a tutorial for it to help people that are visual learners, because I think most of us are in the crafting world. This is our Jazzy Barista by Christina Smiley, and I love it because it has tassels.
They're the best.
I love it.
All about the tassels.
Yeah. So we do all that, and I think it's very important to me that, like I was saying, that I always include crocheters, because it's a big part of my love, big part of my heart. And so we usually kind of rotate back and forth. Sometimes we'll have a couple knit ones and then a couple crochet ones, but it really helps people to see what you can make with the yarn, and to know how different colors are going to work up. And with hand dyed, especially, I think it can be hard to know, like, that looks great on the screen. What's it going to look like once I make it into something? So yeah, we're trying to do more and more and more of that to, as much value as we can give to people. We want to do that.
I love it. I think it's great. I also love, can we all that are listening in, let's appreciate the fact that we have I'm going to call you a high-end yarn company. Like, you have very nice yarn, and you appreciate the crocheters. I'm going to be honest here. That's not always the case. And we all know that. We're not silly, stupid. Like, it's just, it happens. And I mean, it's because typically crochet takes more yarn, and so it costs more money for us to buy more yarn. But I feel like a lot of the yarn companies forget that there are those of us who crochet who appreciate, even who can afford and appreciate higher end yarn, and like to have some patterns available for us as well. Plus, if we don't ever see it, how are we supposed to know what we can make for ourselves with it.
Right.
Like it's kind of the whole, if you build it, they will come. If you show them what the possibilities are, you never know. You might get that one purchase where somebody has a little extra jingle in their pocket and you're who they want to spend their money on. And you're providing them an opportunity to make a pattern with the skill set that they know. I think that's very important. And I appreciate the fact that you do that. I think it's very smart. It's very good. And we thank you as crocheters. Obviously I do both, but it's really nice that you take care of the crocheters like that.
Yeah, that's always going to be something that's important to me. It's just such a big part of me. So
fantastic. I love it. So when you are done for the day, you aren't doing Instagram, you aren't doing Facebook, you aren't doing YouTube or anything. Do you still sit down and pick up your hook and your yarn, your needles and your yarn?
I do. And most of what I do is for the business now. So a lot of it, I'm knitting swatches for future featured colors, or I'm designing a pattern. But yeah, I do still just, enjoy leisure knitting and crocheting in my spare time. Yeah. Not as much as I used to, because I'm typing all day and I have to, keep my wrists happy.
Yep.
But yeah, definitely.
Have you checked out Carson Demmer's book yet?
Is that the one on ergonomics?
Yes.
Yes, I have that.
Oh, that's so good.
So helpful. Yeah, I was like, oh, I need to go walk around the neighborhood upright and knit. I'm like, oh, my face. But that was very helpful.
Yes, I find myself all the time. I'm like adjusting myself in my seat, making sure I'm sitting up straight and both feet are on the ground. And like, I'm constantly doing things like that. So I think that's really awesome. Yeah. You have so many fans in the chat room right now.
I love you all.
It's amazing. They are just like, they appreciate and respect you. You exude positive energy. What else do we have here? People are saying they appreciate the fact that you do crochet. Jeanette says she would love it if Chandi would release kits which include yarn and patterns. I also like that she's been doing more swatches so that we can see the colors. So she's obviously a follower of yours, which is great. Here's a question for you. Do you knit English or Continental as a crocheter first?
I knit Continental. So I first started knitting English style, and I realized, I read somewhere that it might not be as fast as Continental, which it depends on how you do it. It's not necessarily true. So I decided to switch to Continental, and it felt most comfortable for me since I am a crocheter and used to holding the yarn in my left hand. It just felt very natural. Yep. And the fact that it was faster, I really, 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 really love finishing things and producing and being productive. Yep. And accomplishment. So that's probably not what knitting's about, but
no, I'm so with you on that.
But yeah, so the fact that it was a little bit faster for me is why I did, especially when you're doing ribbing or seed stitch or something like that. So I just stuck with that, and I've tried all the methods. I recently got one of the little belts you put on where you put the long stick in it, and I tried that. Yeah, I've done it all, trying to come up with the fastest, most productive method. And at the end of the day, my friend Amy said, knitting's not supposed to be fast. I'm like, oh, okay, you're right. Let me calm down.
I know, right? I just did a big event. It's called the Game Day Mystery Make Along. And so it's for knitters and crocheters. And for 8 or 10 hours, this year it was 8 hours. For the day of the Super Bowl, I release that part of the instruction. So in theory, you should be able to make the item in an hour. Yeah. So I made, or not in an hour, but in the day. Yeah. So I made both items in the time slot to make sure I was like, yes, this can be done, right? And inevitably, all the knitters are like, this is too much work. And I must knit really fast because I'm like, I got it done. Like, I'm not trying to give you guys this sense of woe is me, I can't finish things in the time frame I'm given. I'm like, I really am trying to make it so that, but because I'm like you, I like to knit things fast and get things done quickly. And I'm also a Continental knitter. And so, actually, when I first learned to knit, it's not with the belt, but okay, so let's pretend this is a crochet hook or knitting needle. But my friend Jill, she puts it underneath her armpit. So she's trying to teach me to knit like this, and I'm kind of busty. And so I was running out of room, and I told her, I'm like, Jill, there has to be another way. I can't knit like this. And she's like, geez, Marlena, nobody wants to hear that. I do perfectly fine. And I'm like, well, this is not working for me. So it was actually my pastor's wife who said, you're a crocheter. And I said, yeah. She goes, let me show you how to Continental. And the minute I picked up the needles and held the yarn I was like, yes, this,
Yeah.
I get this.
It makes sense to your brain. Yeah.
Yeah. And so since then I've taught myself how to English. I know how to, it's kind of funny too. Is it called flicking?
Flicking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
My
I
friend Gemma
can,
does that. Yeah.
yeah. So I can flick, but I'm much better at flicking knitting backwards. Does that make sense?
Really?
Yeah. So, I taught myself how to knit backwards so I could do entrelock. And I find, because I'm holding my yarn in my left hand, when I'm going backwards, normally that would mean that you're throwing with your left hand. If you're going backwards, I find that I start flicking. So
Oh.
it's very interesting. I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
whatever gets you there.
Yeah. As long as it's getting there at the end, you're good.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
really great. What kind of items do you like to make?
I really am partial to sweaters. I don't know why. I think it just feels like such a big monumental challenge. It's not, but it feels like it. And it's something that you can wear. And it's like, if you're not in the knitting crocheting world and you tell people, oh, I made a sweater, the look on their face is always so funny. Like,
Yeah.
Either it's, you can buy those at Walmart, or like,
Yeah.
why would you spend 3 months of your life doing it?
Right.
But I like the accomplishment in each section. The sleeve feels like a finished project to me. The body, the front part's a finished project. So yeah, and that's something that I'm going to wear. I also really like making shawls, and I usually wrap them around like you'd wear a scarf.
Yeah.
And hats. I just finished a hat because I know I'm going to wear that. And especially when I was in, it's funny though, it depends on where you live. Because when I lived in Alaska, I made felted thrummed mittens that could survive 20 below, 30 below when I'm out there plugging in my car.
Mittens.
Yes.
I came up with crochet thrummed mittens.
Oh, you did?
Oh my gosh, yes. They're the best. Like, I'll send you the pattern.
Oh, yes. I have not made those. That sounds great.
They're awesome.
Because we still go back and see family. So I need
to.
Yeah. So I made the warmer things, and like the flip top mittens and all that kind of stuff. Now that I'm in the South, I like little cropped sweaters and little beanies and that type of thing that for a little bit warmer weather.
Right.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. This is so fun. I'm watching you, but I keep looking because people are just commenting you constantly. They just they love your yarn. They love your enthusiasm. It's really, it's fantastic. So as you have been doing all of this and putting yourself out there more and more, like you do your YouTube videos, you model your items. Do you find that, where do I want to go with this question? Like rethinking what I want to ask. Isn't that crazy? Like, do you ever feel like you're like, wow, I'm really out there. I kind of feel like I got to step back. Or you're like, no, this is it. I love this. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I see. I think I know what you're asking. Both. So I'm an extreme introvert, and I'm trying not to use that as an excuse in life to not go do stuff, but I just am. I love being alone 95% of my life. And so back in the day, I didn't want to have my face anywhere. I didn't need that. I don't need or want to be known or any of that. But I realized that people do connect with a human, and I wanted them to know I'm a human. I care about you. I'm making this thing for you. So I started to put my face on, social media and model the patterns, and be more of the face of the company. And I've never had much of a problem with it. A couple years ago, we had some people get a little mean, and I retreated for a while. And I kept posting, but I was not sharing anything personal. Yeah. And then my dad passed away about 6 months or so after that. And so I went through a hard time, and I just was really, in my little bubble. And it was tough for me to be out there, I guess. Yeah. And then I started to realize, no, I'm not going to be that way anymore, because I love what I do. This brings joy to people. I love connecting with people. Every time I go to SAF over in Asheville, I don't know if you've been to that, super fun.
Yeah.
And meeting people that love the yarn and that have made our patterns, that is everything. I love the connection of that. Like at the end of the day, when I am on my rocking chair, probably still doing this because I don't plan on ever retiring. Like that is what just fills me up. And so I've been more opening up and, sharing more personal stuff and realizing that, that's what it's about. And I love that part of it. So
I love it. You answered my non-question perfectly.
Thank you.
Well, Shan, it's the time in the show that we give away prizes. And we are blessed here, guys. All the guests that come on the show, they usually offer a prize to those of you who are watching live and to those of you who aren't able to watch the show live, but are able to catch it later on. So right here. For those of you who are watching live, it is 10:45 a.m. Mountain Time. If you are watching live right now, I want you to write in the chat area, I want you to write, I love yarn. Okay, I love yarn is what I want you to write in the chat area. And so I'm going to let them do that. As they're doing that, I'm going to talk to all of you who are not listening live. As I mentioned, you have a chance to win as well. And here's how you will do it. Over on the Marley Bird website, there is, as I mentioned, a drop-down menu for the podcast. And you can see on there, there's a selection for show notes. If you select that, you'll go to a page where it has all the show notes for all the podcasts we have done. You literally want to find the show notes for today's show. Here's a quick tip. I've put a direct link to it in the video description box of this video, so you can get there really easily. You don't have to go through the drop-down menu, but now you know how to if you needed to. When you go to the show notes, you get a brief description of who Chandi is, Expression Fiber Arts. And then there are links to everything social media regarding Expression Fiber Arts. And at the bottom of the post, you have an area where you can leave a reply or leave a comment. When I say at the bottom, I mean at the very, very bottom. So scroll all the way down. In there, you will leave a reply or a comment with the keyword that Chandi's going to give us here in just a minute. And that's sort of like your proof that you watched the show. It's your golden ticket. And by leaving your comment with the keyword, you are now entered for a chance to win a prize. So before I tell you what the prize is, let's ask Chandi what the code word is.
Oh, do I just make it up?
Anything you want.
Any code word in the whole world?
It could be gumdrops. It could be anything you want.
Let's do rainbow.
Rainbow. Oh, I love rainbows. Okay, so rainbow is your keyword, you guys. So include that in your comment. Again, it's on the show notes. The show notes are on Marley Bird's website. The direct link is in the video description box of this video. I say all that because I know many of you are not listening to me right now. You're going to leave your comment on this video, which I love. I love comments on my video, but those do not get you entered for a chance to win. We like to have everything in one place. It makes it easier for us to randomly select a winner. So they have to have your comment on the show notes. Okay. So rainbow is your keyword. Super simple there. And what are they entering for a chance to win? So do you remember what it is? I have it written down too.
You can tell them.
Okay. So what I have here is the comment winner. The comment winner wins a $25 gift certificate to the online yarn store. So to Expression Fiber Arts, you win a $25 gift certificate to the yarn shop. So that's what you're entering to win when you leave your comment on the show notes. Where are the show notes? At marleybird.com. And where can you find the link? In the video description. I know I keep saying it over, but those of you that are listening, you'll appreciate that. So there you have it. So just to be clear, those of you who are watching live, you can still enter to win for those of to the comments. I'm not saying it's one or the other. You could do both. So there you have that. And then Chandi, do you want to tell them what the lovely people are commenting I love yarn in the chat area?
Yes, you are entering to win a copy of my book, which is How to Make $1,000 a Month Selling Your Handmade Goods Online.
Right. And we're going to talk about that book here. So as they're still commenting there, I'm going to give them a chance to keep commenting. Let's talk about that book really quickly.
Yes.
What gave you the idea to come out with this book and all the good stuff?
People kept asking me about the business side of what I do. I have always loved business. My dad was an entrepreneur. Most of the men in my family were entrepreneurs, and it just seemed like the thing to do. And I actually went to college for it, so I just loved it. And people started asking me, how did you get started? How do you get your name out there? How do I monetize my blog? How do I use social media? Just all these questions I kept answering, and I thought, you know what? I'm just going to write them all in one central location, make a book out of it. There you go. So that was several years ago, and we've redone it a couple times since then as things have changed. And that is, it's a manual for someone who is overwhelmed. They want to try to sell their handmade stuff online or other things online. They don't have a clue how to get started. What do you even do to get started? And so the book is split up into two basic sections. The first section is more of the technical stuff, the shipping and the listing, and where do you list it? Etsy, eBay, where do you put it? all that kind of stuff, and some answers to some legal questions. People, ask, do I need a business license, all this type of stuff. So that's the first part of the book. The second part, which I love so much and I read about constantly and I could talk about all day, is the mental aspect. Because at the end of the day, that's what's going to take you from here to there. It's tools similar like to the rocking chair thing I keep referring to. When you're 90 years old and looking back, you're going to be so glad you took the chance. Like, make wise choices, obviously, but take that chance. Set your time and your money budget that you're going to try to make this work, and just go for it and start taking action. And know that whatever question that you have, someone else has that question.
Right.
People ask the same questions. Oh, I have to invent something brand new. No, you don't. People need socks. They buy apples. They like all these things. You can just put your own spin on it in a way that no one's done, and no one's done it the way that you would do it. There might be 500,000 other businesses doing that. They haven't done it the way that you're going to do it. So there's always room for you. So that's basically what the book is about. And my goal with it is that it encourages people just to go get started, because you're going to learn as you go. And none of us know what we're doing when we start. Like, nobody does. We all kind of just jump in and we're like, this is exciting. What do I do now? So everyone feels that way. So just go for it. Set your clear vision and let nothing stand in your way. Like, let that be your life and just go for it. That's just what I want to say to people.
That's fantastic. So you would say anybody who's thinking about taking that leap like you and I did, like, this is
just do it.
It's like an instruction manual for them.
Yeah, do it, because you're either going to find,
wow,
this is nothing like I thought. I hate this, or hey, this is working. So you're gonna answer your question one way or another. You're not going to ever answer it by thinking about it. It's analysis paralysis. You're just going to go round and round and round. You got to get out there, try it, and then you'll get your answers and you'll see.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And it's available on your website for sure. I know that I could buy it there, and it's an ebook. So I want people to know that it's an ebook.
It's an ebook, yes. Instantly downloadable.
Perfect. And it's chock full of great information, stuff that I wish I had known when I first started. I didn't know anything. I didn't know Jack. And I didn't know Bo Diddley. So it was bad. So it's an amazing resource for people to have. So we're going to have one lucky winner over here win a copy of your lovely ebook. So I'm scrolling all the way up to the top where people started posting I love yarn. Man, there's a lot of people. All right. And now I'm going to scroll back down to the bottom, and then I'm going to go back and forth, and you tell me when to stop, and that'll be the lucky winner.
Okay. And stop.
All right. So this is Jeanette Jones. I love your podcast. Feel like when I make a project, I want to use quality yarn. I am partial to hand-dyed yarns. Thank you, ladies. Rainbow. So she didn't say I love yarn. She said I love your podcast. But I feel like she's expressing I love yarn.
It sounded like it. I think
so. I think she's a good winner. So Jeanette Jones. It might be, I think it's Jeanette, because it's Jeanet. Jeanette Jones. She wins a copy of your lovely ebook. I'm going to let her know here. What information do you need from her in order to receive the book?
I just need her email address.
All right.
And I will send it over to her.
All right. So I'm going to have her email me with just to let me know she's the winner, and then I'll send you the information. Winner at yarnthingpodcast.com. Yay. So cool. I feel like I could talk to you for hours. I know I started the podcast before we went on. I'm like, oh, we don't have to go the full hour. I'm like, no, I could totally talk to you for hours. This is great. You're so down to earth. Like, you're the people who are commenting how wonderful you are. You absolutely, like, you're very approachable, very easy to understand and listen to. And like, I love your story. It's very inspiring. And I love that. I think it's really great. I wish you like the most success in this industry. I know it's always ebbing and flowing and changing and shifting, and we got to do all that along the way with it.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think you're doing an amazing job.
Thank you so much. And you as well.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Is there, before I know that everybody can get the links to all your social media stuff through the show notes, but I do want you to mention them here so that way people can follow you, Instagram and all the good places.
Yes. So on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, we are at Expression Fiber Arts. And then Twitter, Pinterest, and Ravelry, Expression Fiber.
Okay.
Because we had a character limit.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. So people can follow along with you and get all sorts of good information. And then as you mentioned, with the yarn clubs, they can sign up every month, whatever they want to do.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Yep.
it's really
Yeah.
fantastic. I am so glad I got a
Oh,
chance to meet you today. You're a true
I know,
delight.
me too. Yeah, this was so fun. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm thrilled you're here. And thanks for putting up with me being sick and all of that good stuff.
Oh, I'm just glad you're feeling better.
Yeah, me too. All right, everybody. That's it for the Yarn Thing podcast today. Hopefully you had a wonderful time learning about expression fiber arts and about the chance to, or not the chance, about the book to jump into this career. She gives you a full instruction manual. Fantastic. You need to go check it out. expressionfiberarts.com. Again, in the show notes, there's a link to everything you need in order to find Chandi online and go say hello. All right, guys, I will talk to you again, I think next Tuesday. I think I'm on the show again next Tuesday. It'll come by real quickly. Until then, have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.